has been a while since we made something like this. We're going to be taking a look at a very, very common problem in a dungeon that is looked at as one of the hardest dungeons, if not the hardest dungeon in the War Within Season 1. And this problem being so common is very scary to me. A lot of people have said it needs to be nerfed. A lot of commentary from non-healers and tanks as well, saying like, wow, my tank is bad, my healer is bad, one of the two things. Lots that can be done here. Let's take a look at some footage that got submitted to me that sparked me making this video and wanting to make a more instructional conversation go around this topic. So this was submitted to me under the guise of like, I can't figure out why I'm dying, people are flaming me kind of thing. And I don't exactly remember what was said about this one, but like I said, I've heard this quite a lot, all right? So right out of the gate, you can see the damage type weak horror. You can see he gets hit for 10.6 million damage. That is his full health pool. And then he types dispel me. As you see, it does an enormous amount of damage. Now, I believe this is parryable. I have no like actual guaranteed proof of this. People say you can also dodge it as a tank. So if that is the case, then yes, this is a big deal on this fight, but it is not reliable. And if you are trying to take a 100% health damage and you're expecting to parry it to live, yeah, it's not going to go well. And that's what we see here. He's going to pop dancing rune weapon, and then we're going to take the seismic smash. And you would think like, all right, really high chance to just not get hit by this, but he does not do it. It doesn't matter. He dies. He's going to take the res. We're going to continue on, and then we're going to make a crazy mistake that is ultimately going to end this run. So let's react to what's going on in the chat right now. He dies a second time, and healer is now like questioning that. Now, of course, the rep pally has to join in. This guy's doing absolute work, doing 600k in the fight, so he's got to have a comment too. Same thing with the Ellie Shaman. He's a genius, so he knows exactly what happened. He says, oh, he got hit in the back. Yeah, that's definitely why he died. Yeah, 100% getting hit in the back. Yep. Now, the tank is talking about being dispelled, okay? And we'll come back to this conversation in depth here because this is the number1 problem with this dungeon that you see every single time, pretty much. The priest, he replies, I did all the dispels. The shaman continuing to insist that he got hit in the back, which is such a weird thing to suggest. But let's watch the beginning of the second pull here, and then we'll start talking about what actually strategically needs to change for these guys and why so many people are getting this fight wrong. All right, so here it comes, Tank Buster, and as you see, here comes the debuff. You can see this right here. Got a little weak ore on a screen. It's going to show pretty much like all like the pertinent stuff going on in the fight. So here comes the Tank Buster here. Watch the screen. Boom. 3, 2, 1. Instantly dispelled. Literally not even 2 seconds went by on that debuff and that guy dispelled. Fight carries on. Shaman's actually going to go ahead and get hit in the back here. Yeah, he's just going to, oh yeah, he got hit in the back by that spike. That was a big mistake on him, but he's back up. He onked. And the guy, you can watch the debuff, see it again, just instantly dispels. Literally the second it goes out, instantly dispels it. And then the third seismic smash, since, we are taking all this extra damage, is just ultimately not going to be sustainable. 11 million, that one he shows on the screen. That's pretty nuts. Red Pally says, nah, he doing something wrong. Ain't never seen this happen. Such stupid mistakes from Ready Bull Kazakh and a waste of time. He got to throw that into. Tank says, I would like to try to figure this out. So can we do one more poll? Because obviously it seems like 5 people have no idea what's going on in this fight. Paladin says, where are you going? It's GG. I ain't testing shit with you. I could totally see that because, the guy's doing like 700k. He's clearly mastered the fight, understands every mechanic on it. These people are literally not worth your time. They don't matter to you whatsoever. They're barely even other human beings. Like, I get it that they technically are, but since they're on the internet, you can just totally treat them like trash and disregard everything they want. And jokes aside, though, this is serious, and this is a really, 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 really big problem with this game. I mean, we can make a whole 30-minute rant about this situation. And from what we can see in this situation, effectively 4 people are just straight up admitting they have no idea what's going on in the encounter they're doing. So this is why we're making the video, because I've not seen this in a very, very long time. I don't know when the last time I saw this was this like wide scale confusion about how a single mechanic worked in a Mythic Plus dungeon that was already this difficult. Now, before we talk about what like everybody else can do, let's talk about exactly what the tank's done wrong here in this situation. You would see him get hit for 11 million regularly, right? Like it was 10 to 11 million on all of the times we saw it on the screen. And as a Blood Death Knight, you can easily survive that number. Right? You don't have like crazy good physical mitigation, but you have a lot of tools that you can't do to do this. Example, it sounds like it should work, but I have had no real success with it, but it does allow you to get better mastery healing and a bigger pad on that front, because this is pure physical damage. So if you can get a couple million mastery on, then you're pretty much going to survive no matter what. And that's all you got to think about really, is just having enough health to survive it, because there's no other real damage on the fight that's going to challenge you. So the way I have been doing it, sadly, is that I've just basically been rotating a CD for every single one, and anytime I don't don't have reliable CDs, I just try to stack up a couple death strikes right before it, and that usually gets me through it. Again, you can parry it technically, so that's like a free pass if you ever do have that happen, but Death Knight, you should be able to survive it. But should you have to survive it? No, the answer is no. You're not supposed to have to survive this. You're supposed to be getting dispelled, and you're supposed to be getting a debuff that gives you a 50% damage reduction when it is dispelled. You have a small window here. Let's take a look at the footage one more time to exemplify that. We looked at this before, but you see the debuff goes out immediately after the tank hit, okay? And then when it gets dispelled, you get a 50% incoming damage reduction. Now, here is this important bit of nuance that was missed initially, all right? The first one, there is no dispel, no matter what. He doesn't do it until he does the tank slam. So you will not ever get any type of survival given to you for the first one. You have to survive the first one on your own. So inaccurately, the tank asks for a dispel, but there was no way that it can be dispelled because it had not gone out yet. It doesn't go out until after the seismic smash. So this one's going to go out. And again, we're going to see the priest dispel way too early, like 4 seconds into the cast. What you want to do with this 50% damage reduction is you want to use it for the next seismic slam. So the first one goes out, then you use it for the second one. It lasts plenty long enough, but it is a little close. So from what I can tell, you want to have this dispel right as the cast starts. Okay, let's take a look at the exact cast time here. As you're going to see, it's about 4 seconds. Yeah, it looks like it's a 4-second cast, and the debuff lasts 6 whole seconds. So as long as you dispel it right at the end and right as the seismic smash is happening, it will be covered. That's it. That's your job as a healer. Okay, so if you ever dispel it early, just be aware you're potentially going to wipe the group. I don't know that there's ever been this big of a punishment for like a single mechanic like this before, and I think this is a really interesting mechanic because it does require some collaboration between the healer and the tank. Like if the healer makes a mistake, the tank can save the mistake by surviving it on their own. You actually are relying on each other to such a degree that I don't know that I've seen this before in the game, and really maybe ever in a Mythic Plus situation. And it's actually a pretty cool mechanic. It really is. But you see how these innovative mechanics just totally confound people to the point where they have absolutely no idea what's going on. Because remember when we looked at the footage and he dies the second time on the first fight, the priest is reacting to probably this second death, to be honest, but I think the tank believes that he's reacting to his comments earlier in the dungeon. He's asking him to dispel, right? And he says, I needed to be dispelled before the tank buster. The priest's response is, I did all dispels. If we like take this like literally responding word for word, he's saying, I did all the dispels when the tank says there's a dispel that needs to be done before the buster. You could easily misconstrue this idea for like, oh, it just needs to be done at some point before the buster, not directly before the buster. And I assume a lot of healers are stuck in this idea where the dispel needs to happen at some point. So let's just do it ASAP because that's how skilled I am. I'm just going to get this thing off instantly. That's just zero value. We have a weak aura here. Okay, I'm going to link this down below. This is going to help you identify exactly when you should dispel it as a healer. It says highlights the frame and plays a phone sound when you're supposed to dispel the tank on the EDNA fight, and that the effect can be changed to your interests. And yeah, definitely something I would recommend because this is basically exactly what we do with Plater. This is the same kind of mechanic, right? It's a mechanic that it happens and you need to react to it. Usually that's something like interrupt or move out, but as a healer, this is a very rare situation where that reaction is dispel, right? Not a normal thing, especially when you're sitting on a dispel for this long. But we do something else wrong here, and it's kind of like a strange conversation altogether. So let's talk about exactly what we do here that ultimately ends up wiping them the second time. So he died, we take the res, salvaging the fight. Boss is at 50%, so it's like very, very salvageable at this point. And then the first thing he's going to do with like 6 million health is run into a spike. You see that spike did 5.7 million, and then he honestly just dies to getting meleeed. Yeah, just got sub 1 million health and just going down to just the physical auto attacks, right? This is where these clowns start talking about the guy getting hit in the back and all this nonsense. I'm telling you right now, guys, if you're playing a DPS and you don't know what's going on, just stay silent, man. All right, if you're trying to help the group and you have no idea what's actually causing problems, this is why you want to record your runs. Record the runs. You could stop, look at the footage and see exactly what's happened, and then maybe you can learn and advise the guy on something. But I mean, to think that he got hit in the back, like you clearly have no idea what the damage profile of this fight looks like or anything that even occurred. It's very obvious, right? There's 3 spikes. Guess what? Now there's 2. Watch, he's gonna walk into one. Hey, there's one less spike. Where'd that one go? Oh, I don't know. It just killed our tank. Why did it kill our tank? Why did he soak it in the first place is now what we want to talk about. In the beta, I was doing this constantly. There used to be, I believe, 5 spikes on this fight, and if you didn't have at least one soaked, it would be very, very, very difficult to heal because all of them might break at the same time. They nerfed this fight to the ground. I've never seen a fight start and end in a different position than this. So is there a reason to soak the spikes? I don't know. He said that people were telling him in previous groups that they should still be soaked. Does it hurt or does it help? Obviously it does help because it allows the healer to have less of a burden of healing extra stacks when it's time to break them all. And I think as a tank, this is actually a very good idea. But as you see, it does almost 6 million fire damage. So do you want to just walk into this? No, absolutely not. And then certainly you don't want to do it when you're already low health. But what you can do, and what I was doing on the beta, was I would just use AMS for this every time, because there's another layer to problems that you might run into as a Blood Death Knight. If you have AMS up during this Seismic Smash, guess what you don't get? You don't get the magic debuff that then needs to be dispelled to give you the 50% damage reduction. I made this mistake myself because I originally thought that, this damage was fire as well as everything else, because they were taking all this fire damage, that must also be fire damage. And so AMSing it would help me survive it. Or at least, I was thinking like, oh, I'll AMS the actual magic dot from the spikes, and then that will just keep me at fuller health. So then when it's time to take the physical hit, I will be higher health for that too. But this is a huge, huge error that I've made myself. So I'm warning you guys, do not AMS at any point in this fight unless you are using it to break one of those spikes, because if you have it up during the tank mechanic, you will just not get the debuff, and then the healer can't do his job, right? So especially in the first one, you may accidentally use it there, and then you won't have it for the second one at all. It just won't be present. So if you want to do this, especially as a Blood Death Knight, yeah, just AMS the spike, and I think it's not a bad idea, but you got to pay attention because it does a lot of damage. This fight does a lot of damage. The way I've taken to doing it is just pretty much stand still and just let everybody else do everything else. You're there to survive it. Unfortunately, I've done a lot of runs now, up to 18 stone vaults, and I have not seen a single healer do it perfectly. So I hope this video helps, and I really think, like, yeah, getting the weak ore as a healer obviously is going to make your life a lot easier, but it just makes me wonder, like, if you're a healer main and you're doing this fight and every single time you do it, the tank gets one shot, and then he's telling you to dispel at certain times, like, when is it that you eventually say, like, oh, maybe there's a little bit more to this mechanic than I expected there to be? Like, in the situation of this priest, is he genuinely seeing this mechanic for the first time? Has he never seen anybody die to it? Does he just somehow play with tanks who are able to survive it every time? I guess as like a prot warrior or something like that, it's probably very easy to survive it because it's pure physical damage. Maybe that's the problem here. I can't really identify what the problem is. That's ultimately why I wanted to make this video, was because I was trying to see why other people are failing this so frequently and it's not getting learned from. This seems to be a mechanic that you would have learned about in Mythic 0, or maybe even lower than Mythic 0, right? Like something would be causing problems at that level because people would have been under geared. But the fact that we are getting into 10s and 11s now, where there are people who are just not dispelling properly, and then you confront them about it and they act like they're doing it right. It's a really weird situation, and this dungeon is probably leading the pack in that mindset where there's just like pretty much 4 fights that 1 or 2 small mistakes is just like pretty much instant wipe, and that's the key right now. TLDR, make sure you're using a major defensive for the first one. Nobody can help you survive that one. The healer cannot dispel you. There is no debuff out at that point. Icebound Fortitude is probably the right choice, and then just rotate them anyway, man, because even if you are getting the 50% damage reduction reliably, you are still going to take a good amount of damage, and there isn't any real damage to mitigate on the fight outside of that. And then if you do want to help the group out and soak one, just pretty much soak it the second it spawns, use AMS, or just be ready to make sure you're having full health pool again afterwards, because if you are having to take an 11 million hit without the 50% damage reduction, you're going to need to be full health and have major defensives rolling. If anybody has any questions or any additional commentary on things that I might have missed on this encounter, or ways you can maximize it even further, please leave that down below. This is not your typical video where we're here just kind of laughing and joking about this stuff. This is a serious topic, and I think it's kind of scary that we are doing 10s and people are reliably not knowing this mechanic and then kind of arguing about it too, where you have these guys who are telling you you're dying because you got hit in the back when you took an 11 million hit and stuff like that. This is a really, really scary thing right now. Thank you for watching. We will see you guys in the next one.